Welcome everyone to Tara Institute. My name's Judy and I've been hanging around here for quite a long time. Tonight I'm going to we'll do the refuge prayer and then I'm going to talk about some other things and do some meditation. So I'll say the refuge prayer, which is for motivation really, it's for one's higher motivation. It's the highest motivation that Mahayana Buddhists can have. So it's good to, to have the highest motivation, so then what follows, hopefully, will be a higher concentration and practice. So I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, excuse me, to the Buddha, Dharma and the highest assembly, from the virtuous merit that I collect by practicing giving and other perfections, may I attain the state of a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma and the highest assembly, from the virtuous merit that I collect by practicing giving and other perfections, may I attain the state of a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, Dharma and the Sangha, from the virtuous merit that I collect by practicing giving and other perfections, may I attain the state of a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. So that going for refuge in the Buddha, Dharma and the Sangha, we take refuge in all sorts of other things. We take refuge in property, real estate, housing, cars, things, people, other people, relationships, alcohol, food, all sorts of things. We take refuge, and none of them are satisfactory as a refuge. Because if they had been, we'd all be extremely happy and totally over the moon with happiness, and we'd have no suffering. So the refuge is, if we're taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, they liken that, there's an analogy is that the Buddha is like the doctor and the Dharma is the Buddhist teachings and they're like the medicine, and the Sangha are ordained people who are ordained, and they're the highest assembly. I mean, they're meant to be the people who are really practicing the Dharma, listening to and putting it into practice. So we take refuge in them. They're called the three jewels because they are jewels. They're more important than jewels because they can give us a sort of, not just a happiness in this life by, listening to the Dharma and trying to put it into practice and, trying to get rid of negativities and develop positive qualities. They can also, in terms of Buddhism, help us with future lives. So they're more important than a wish-fulfilling jewel. That's okay for now. They can buy you everything in this life, but it can't give you a future happy rebirth. So now in Tibetan, the prayer, I won't say it again, but in Tibetan, the prayer says these Tibetan words, which are Sangye, which is a Buddha. And the Buddha has all the abilities. Buddhas, there's heaps of Buddhas around. There's been hundreds, thousands, many Buddhas. So a Buddha is someone who's attained an awakened mind. They have, like Sangye means they've attained all the positive qualities, and Janchu, which is another word for Buddha, means they've abandoned all negative qualities. So why do we want to abandon negative qualities? Well, it's obvious, isn't it? So a Buddha has gone, they say sometimes, beyond sorrow, and the Buddha has abandoned all negative stuff and adopted all positive qualities. So no more suffering. So Also, when I said in the prayer, by gaining merit, that just means sort of good karma, you know, like something will ripen into good karma. Merit from giving and other perfections. The other perfections are giving, patience, morality, all those things. So my teachers, the teachers I've heard, they're always talking about bodhicitta. Often now they seem to focus now on bodhicitta, which is, it means awakened mind in Sanskrit. And it's about wanting to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. I know that is like a hugely sort of ambitious, seemingly impossible task sometimes, but that's the aim. And the thing is, they call it the great vehicle because it aims to help the ultimate number of people, all sentient beings. So there's different states of enlightenment. There's enlightenment or liberation yourself from suffering. So there's different sort of schools, you know. So a lot of enlightened people enlighten for themselves. They're liberated from suffering themselves, but maybe not with the bodhicitta, with the aim to benefit all sentient beings. Because a Buddha has been on the path, and a Buddha knows, you know, has got rid of all the, you know, the suffering, and has attained all the positive qualities. So that's the aim of Buddhism in general, to become a happy person, basically, to be contented and happy, and to have better relationships, and, you know, that's it, sort of. As for the long term of, you know, becoming enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings, it's good to have that as a long-term thing. So I thought that tonight I'd just talk about what we need to abandon, and next week more of that, and then the other 2 weeks what we need to adopt, you know, the practices we need to adopt. So we'll do some breathing meditation. There's 2 types of meditation. There's the sort of there's the single-pointed focus, like breathing meditation is a single-pointed focus on your breath or on a positive image or object. They call it an object. Whereas another sort of meditation, analytic meditation, is where we analyse concepts or reasons for doing something. Like, so we might analyse the fact that all sentient beings have been our mothers. And when you hear that, you think, what? So we'd analyse the reasons for that, for why they claim that all sentient beings have been our mothers. Or we analyse compassion. Why should we develop compassion? Or how? So it's more analytic meditation. So the things that we should abandon, which I'll talk about after, what's called the 10 non-virtuous actions. Thoughts as well. So the reason we need to abandon those, or, you know, to get rid of those in our mind stream, is because they cause, like cause and effect, which is really karma. They throw us into unhappy rebirths. And they just, even before a rebirth, they cause disturbance in our mind. You know, they cause sort of unhappiness. So we'll start with some breathing meditation. For meditation, it's best to just be comfortable. So we need to be comfortable, because if you're not comfortable, it's hard to focus. It's hard to concentrate. and good to try and keep your spine straight. And we, like I did before at the beginning of this talk, we sort of develop a motivation, a reason. So we're going to just sort of do some focus on our breathing. Why? Because then we're not thinking other stuff. We're not feeling negative, we're not feeling overjoyed, we're not feeling angry. So we're just focusing on our breath. And as they say, our breath is always there. And so it's a familiar object. And it's an easy object. It's good to be able to do some breathing meditation if we feel sort of slightly upset or anxious, or, you know, it's good to be able. And the main thing is we want to have control of our mind. We don't want to be ruled by our thoughts. So we suspend thinking for the meantime, in the meantime. So we can sit, the traditional posture is to sort of sit cross-legged or in the lotus position, which is with the legs on your thigh, the feet on the thighs, but and to sort of have our head slightly bent forward, preferably the eyes not really closed, but sort of, because you might fall asleep if they're closed, but whatever works for you. And your shoulders relaxed, and your arms sort of relaxed with your right hand on top of your left, touching your thumbs. And so we think our motivation is to become familiar with some sort of breathing meditation so that we can have a bit more control of our mind, and we can have better relationships in the world, and ultimately to become enlightened for the benefit of all beings. But we can go for the lesser motivation for now. So we just focus on our breath. The breath going in our nose, mouth shut. And visualize that breath, whether you sort of visualize it as a stream of air, and focus on that. And if you get distracted, don't worry about that, just go back to the breathing. And we'll do that for a few minutes. Keep your breathing even. Okay, we can dedicate any merit, any goodness we got from that to developing a calm mind. Oh, I wasn't talking much. Yeah, so we can dedicate that. Everything's motivating and dedicating. So I was reading something which said that feelings involve thousands of thoughts, like thousands of thoughts that have gone on previously, you know, over the day or other days, and then it ends up being anger or attachment, or so all these thoughts. And so you can see when we try to, even just focus on our breath, how we're always, all these thoughts are intruding all the time. So it's really good to practice 5 minutes, you know, it's really, really good to do it every day. But how often do we allow ourselves 5 minutes of the day to meditate, to sit down, to, you know, attempt to, you can see how distracted we all sort of are. Well, we have to work and look after grandchildren and do all that sort of thing. So I was talking before about, in order to attain an enlightened mind, one needs to abandon things in the mind that prevent us from having full awareness. A bit like the thoughts, you know, the thoughts. But so one of the basic sort of things we need to abandon are the 10 non-virtues. It's a bit like the 10 Commandments, but it's not the same, but it's similar. Why do we need to abandon these? Because they throw us into suffering realms, lower rebirths. But not only that, they preoccupy our mind with unnecessary, harmful things. So, you know, let alone the karmic and rebirth and all that. They're, you know, things to abandon. Anyway, so there's 3 of the body, 3 non-virtues. And on the other hand, on the opposite hand, it's good to adopt, which I said I would talk about adopting in the next other weeks. So the 3 non-virtues of the body and the mind, and there's 4 of speech. So obviously of the body is killing. So most of us don't do that. We don't. So killing gives you a short life. Sends us to lower realms. In the long run, karmic, you know, in other lives it causes illness and we end up in war, experiencing war. Stealing, well, that's another thing we don't do. And it's not so, you know. And these are like the laws of the land, you know, too. So there's law against killing, stealing. Sexual misconduct is any sexual activity that causes suffering to other people and yourself, I suppose, but, you know, that causes other people to get upset or to feel annoyed, because then they take action which is harmful to them. And of the mind, very old-fashioned word, covetousness, which is sort of craving, you know, things that other people have, wanting what other people have, because that causes, you know, resentment, jealousy, competition. Well, competition's apparently okay, but so, yeah. So you end up being dissatisfied. And of the mind, malice, or harmful intent, it can be called. So if we have any harmful intent in our mind, wishing, oh, you know, that person comes to grief, or even thinking, oh, I can't stand that person, or even, you know, those sorts of things in your mind, because those sorts of thoughts can lead to actions. So that's the whole thing about what's going on, you know, and causing consequences. And wrong view. Now, wrong view, according to Buddhists, is sort of not believing in karma and stuff like that. I mean, you know, you're not expected to believe in karma all of a sudden as soon as you come to a meditation course. But just because if you say, oh no, that's, not right, that means I can do anything, If I say, oh, one of the 10 non-virtues is not killing, and you think, or maybe make it a lesser thing, craving, covetousness, and you think, oh, that's not that bad, everybody has that. And it doesn't lead to negative consequences, that's a sort of wrong view. Wrong view is that, you can do whatever you like without consequences. It's basically that. It's not believing in karma or cause and effect for karma. And then there's of speech, there's lying and slander and harsh speech. Those two sound very similar, but and gossip. Gossip is the lesser one, I've heard, but it's the one we do the most of. So it's there because it's sort of a waste of time when you could be practicing Dharma. It's a sort of a waste of time, I suppose, and can lead to negative views about, other people and that. So they're the 10 non-virtues, and so the 10 virtues which we need to adopt are, refraining from killing even things, ants and things around the house, killing in general. So, and to try and save lives. Buddhists are always trying to save lives. I mean, some people. And being aware not to steal. So anyway, the 10 virtues are the opposite of those. So I think that's pretty straightforward. The one good thing about the non-virtues and negativity is that you can purify it. It can be purified by the 4 opponent powers. So one can purify. That's the only good thing about negative stuff, that it can be purified. And I thought we would do, later on, we'll do like a Shakyamuni Buddha meditation, which is a sort of visualizing meditation. So the other things that we need to abandon. So no, it's good to look at these things, the 3 of the body: killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and thinking, those things are probably pretty easy. But all of them cause suffering for not only ourselves but other people and other beings. And of speech, I think we're more likely to be, we might tell a white lie. We're more likely to do the non-virtues of speech. Like my granddaughter, who's 5, she just tells me this blatant sort of untruth straight to my face. And my daughter would go, oh, is that so? And so I'd go, no, it's not really. So I look at it as being between fantasy and sort of, well, maybe it's a lie. And I think that, I don't know, slander is, I think, trying to make people to have a negative view of people, to like sort of think negatively. Like, I have a problem. If I had a problem with a neighbour and I was thinking, oh, how do I deal with this? I have to develop patience. And then I thought, well, there's nothing really inherently wrong with that person. You know, I thought, there's nothing, even though I can't stand the sight of that person, there's nothing really wrong with them. If I look, there's nothing wrong with them. They're fine. They're you know, in their own right. They're a good person. And that sort of seemed to help. The more I do that, the less I have of the negative, you know, things. Like I think, when you look at that person, you know, they're just like, there's nothing wrong with them. Their mother thinks they're fabulous, you know, or their son or daughter. So it's all coming from me, from my mind, you know. It's like, which is really worth thinking about, you know, like that. My mind is saying that they are that. They are that. They are intractably that. They are inherently that. And then I think, no, they're not that. They're not. And that's the wisdom. That's sort of involved with the wisdom realising emptiness. So Buddhists talk about emptiness, you know. So the emptiness is the lack of the inherent existence of that, of it in objects and people, selflessness. So I thought that we could do a Shakyamuni Buddha meditation, because then it would be any sort of meditation that one does is good, purifying. So the four opponent powers are like taking refuge, or you know, thinking, okay, there are beings that you know that have become Buddhas and they know how to do that, and they're really more than happy to show us how to do that. And that, well, there's the Vajrasattva practice too. But so there's refuge, which is the four opponent powers. There's the remedy, which is the purification, doing a practice. Even if you just, you know, imagine, like we will in a minute, the white light, the golden light coming and purifying us. And then there's the regret. Oh, that's right. I wish I hadn't done that. Because if you don't think, oh, I wish I hadn't done that, you'd probably think, oh, you know, it's okay to do that again, sort of. And the resolve, the resolution not to do that for a day or 2 days or, you know, a week, rest of your life. So we can do some meditation, another meditation, which is a more visualized meditation. Oh, and I saw this, I was watching, for the millionth time, Antique Roadshow tonight, and they had this Buddha, this beautiful Buddha, worth $40,000 to $50,000. It was, and it was the Buddha, and it had underneath it, it must have been Chinese, I think, or it was a big, you know, quite big, and underneath it it had all the ripples of like water, you know, because the Buddha is on a lotus, and the lotus traditionally has come out of the mud, so it's a sign of having come through the water, out of the mud, into enlightenment, or into. So, and it had because I've never seen a Buddha with the water sort of image underneath it. So the Buddha has these powers. Okay, so we check our motivation. Our motivation for doing this is to purify any negativities that we might have adopted, created from any of those body, speech and mind actions. So we think we do the Buddha has the power to purify. And so we have a picture of, in front of us, the Buddha. First we do a few breaths, we take a few deep breaths. And then focus on our breathing. And then picture the Buddha sitting on a lotus, which symbols, I think, renunciation, and on a moon, a sun, and a moon disk. The Buddha emanates light, is sort of light, bright light, golden light. And the right hand is in the touching the ground mudra, gesture, and the left in the meditative gesture. And the Buddha is smiling benevolently at us. And emanating beautiful, warm, golden light. So then the Buddha comes to the crown of our head, facing the same way as we are. And from the Buddha's heart radiates light to all sentient beings. All sentient beings are surrounding us. All of them. And the Buddha radiates light to all sentient beings, and all their suffering is relieved. And then we experience warm light, the light from the Buddha going down through our crown and filling our whole body. So we are a body of light. Purifying all our negativities. Leave us in the form of black light or black stuff that disappears into the universe. All our negativities of body, speech and mind. And the same for all sentient beings. So we become just a body of light. We can say any mantras that we know. The Buddha mantra is Om Muni Muni Maha Muniye Soha. Or we can say Om Mani Padme Hum. Or don't worry about All our negativities disappear out beyond. And we resolve to not do those negative actions of body, speech and mind. Then the Buddha dissolves into us through our crown, and we experience bliss and emptiness. Having abandoned all those negativities. And then we can focus into the room, having experienced bliss and emptiness. Does anyone want to say anything? Question? Do we think these things are, like, what do we think of these 10 non-virtues? Are they sort of a bit preachy to us? Do we experience them? Do we sort of do this in our life? Do we find that it's worth getting rid of are they things that we feel we could do less of? Yeah. And as for meditating, well, we can see that meditating is really just, different forms of meditating are really just sort of, strengthening our mind or calming our mind. Very valuable to be able to, and not easy. I mean, it's a long path. It's really like, it's not as though you're going to sort of be living this completely negative free and all positive. It requires application. But 5 minutes a day or something like that is good. I try to, but and one can also, any sort of meditation is good, is like purification. But if you try and sort of accompany it with like refuge, some sort of refuge, like I take refuge in the highest qualities, of not just Buddha, but all of us humans' highest qualities, and then think, regret, I wish I hadn't done that, well, the reason for that is because then you will be less inclined to do it, again, to do whatever was negative, and to remedy. The remedy is any sort of purification, sort of like a Buddha meditation or breathing meditation, and resolving, to be free of those things, for those negative things of body, speech and mind. So, everyone's happy with that? No questions? No, nothing? Someone's going to come in and talk about something, but I will just mention this Taratanka. I don't know, you've probably seen it on the website or probably seen it. The Taratanka, it's this massive. It was shown at the Hamer Hall a few years ago, in 2019 or before the pandemic. And it's 15 metres high. It's higher than here, much higher, much. When we first got it, we had to put it out in the Gompa. We didn't know what to do with it. It was made in France by Peter Eseli, who's meant to be the best Tanka painter. I said to him, what about Tibetans? He said, well, I'm the best Western one. And he's the only Western one, I think. But anyway, it's a beautiful 21 taras, which is... no, we don't have that. We do. Of course, it's in that one. It's over there, yeah. 21 taras, the taras all have... Tara has the ability... Tara, the Tibetans will sort of, pray to or focus on Tara as being able to help. Tara is a much more working, everyday deity, and people will focus on Tara if they need help, like very common deity. Tara mantra is Om Tare Tu Tare Tu E Soha. And that also can be purification. So anyway, the Taratanka is being displayed as part of Vesak Week at the Melbourne Town Hall. Some of you might have already seen it last time. No? Last year, I think. Anyway, it's worth seeing. The Rinpoche, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who commissioned it for Tara Institute, he said the more people see it, it's very beneficial to see it. And that karma would ripen later, or whatever. So, yeah, it's a unique thing. We found we had to do a lot of research to find somewhere to show it, because it's so big. It's like, it's really, and beautiful. It's sort of, so anyway, we did a lot of research. We took it to the St Kilda Town Hall, but we couldn't get it through the doors. We couldn't get it up the stairs. And, there was all sorts of problems like that. But luckily, we can show it. It's very rare for us to be able to show it because it's so big and so beautiful, but the size of it. Anyway, so it's worth, seeing if you got the time, moment. Saturday, 10 till 4 in the Melbourne Town Hall. It's part of VSAC week. The morning, Damien was just saying to me, the morning is quieter, more calmer in there. In the afternoon they have quite a few cultural activities, which is fine, but in the morning it's more, it's probably quieter, easier to see. Although, no, you can't miss it. It's not as though it's hard to see. All right, then also Cynthia was going to come in and talk about the book. There's a book that all these senior teachers we've contributed to in the bookshop, Monday night teachers. And teachings like, this. So anyway, it's in the bookshop. All right, well, next week I'll talk about more abandoning things. You have to abandon. We have to abandon. So anything else? Any statements? No? So you all accept that, do you? Yes.
You say that killing is a bad thing. If you kill a cockroach or
yes.
a bee or an insect or a mosquito or something like that, does it have the same gravity as killing?
No, it's actually, it's advised not to kill. I get a cup and then put a piece of card under the cup and take it out while the kids are freaking out. But no, you see, there are different sort of actions. Like, so if you killed a Buddha or drew blood on a Buddha, that's really, not on. Or I think if you kill a person, and it depends on your motivation. I mean, you could accidentally kill someone, so that's not as bad. That's not, you don't reap that really bad karma. But it's best to avoid killing bees or, or cockroaches or... Well, sometimes you can't help it if you've got an invasion of ants and things like that, but, it's best to avoid. But it's not as... You don't get the full karmic consequences. It depends on your motivation as well. Like if you're doing it to protect a child that, is allergic to bees or something, then, the motivation is important. And the object, the thing that you kill is important too. And then if you rejoice or sort of think, oh, that's great, got rid of that, then that makes it, that's not so good either. So yeah, so best to avoid killing.
Stealing as well, if it is something which, I don't know, does it matter if it's from a major corporation or an individual?
I think so. They even say not paying taxes is, is not good. Yeah. Depriving anyone of, yeah. It's best to avoid that. It sets up, negative things in your mind. It sets up the propensity to do it repeatedly. That's one of the things they say, of the consequences, Yeah, so